Look at the shaker sitting on your dining table right now. It is perhaps the most mundane object imaginable, a cheap commodity found in every diner and pantry across the globe. Yet for thousands of years, this granular white dust was the engine of empires and the cause of bloody wars. It was not merely a seasoning, but a currency so potent that Roman legionnaires accepted it as payment, giving us the etymological root of the word salary. If you stripped away the modern convenience of the grocery store, you would find that civilization itself was built on a foundation of sodium chloride.
We often mistake its historical value for a desire for flavor, assuming our ancestors simply craved a more palatable meal. This is a fatal misunderstanding of the past. The hunger for salt was driven by a primal fear of starvation and the biological necessity of preservation. Before the advent of mechanical refrigeration, the world was a ticking clock of decay, where flesh and harvest spoiled within days. Salt was the only weapon against the microbial armies of putrefaction, a magical substance that could freeze time and keep death at bay during the harsh, lean winters.
To find the genesis of this obsession, we must cast our gaze back to the mist-shrouded dawn of Chinese antiquity, nearly 5 millennia ago. Long before the Silk Road carved its path through the dunes, the legendary Yellow Emperor, Huangdi, fought the first recorded wars over the shimmering white flats of Lake Yuncheng. It was here, in the province of Shanxi, that humanity first learned to harvest the crystals forming on the surface of the water during the scorching summer months. This was not just a resource, it was a divine gift that granted the holder dominion over life itself. The earliest production methods were feats of primitive alchemy that transformed the economy of the East. In the coastal regions, laborers would boil seawater in heavy clay vessels until the liquid evaporated, leaving behind a precious, coarse residue. In the interior, they drilled deep into the earth using bamboo pipes and iron bits, extracting brine from subterranean aquifers with a sophistication that rivals modern engineering. These ancient saltworks were guarded like treasuries, surrounded by fortifications and patrolled by soldiers who understood that a monopoly on salt was effectively a monopoly on the population's survival. This reverence was mirrored in the scorching sands of Egypt, where the substance took on a sacred dimension beyond mere sustenance. The Egyptians harvested natron, a natural salt mixture found in the dry lake beds of Wadi el Natrun, and used it to defy the ultimate finality of death. By desiccating the bodies of pharaohs and nobles, they believed they were preserving the soul for the afterlife. The trade routes carrying these mineral deposits became arteries of wealth, linking the oases of the Libyan desert to the majestic temples of Thebes. As the centuries ground forward, this white gold began to dictate the flow of power across the Mediterranean. It would eventually lead to the construction of the Via Salaria, the Salt Road, one of the oldest and most vital arteries of the Roman Republic. But before the legions marched, the pattern was already set. From the brine wells of Sichuan to the drying pans of the Nile Delta, the human story was being written not in ink or blood, but in salt. The logistical genius of Rome eventually codified this resource into a system of imperial control. At the mouth of the Tiber, the salt pans of Ostia Antica were expanded into industrial complexes capable of feeding the Eternal City and its sprawling legions. The state understood that price stability prevented insurrection, leading emperors to subsidize the cost for the plebeian masses during times of crisis. It was here that the concept of value became inextricably linked to the mineral, as soldiers guarding the Via Salaria received their salarium allowances. This linguistic fossil survives in our modern lexicon, reminding us that a man's worth was once literally measured in ounces of brine. As the Roman sun set, a new power rose from the marshy lagoons of the Adriatic, built entirely upon the monopoly of sodium chloride. The most serene Republic of Venice did not begin as a city of marble palaces, but as a collection of desperate refugees selling salt harvested from the muddy flats.
By the 12th century, the Venetian Magistrato al Sal had ruthlessly eliminated competition, even destroying the rival saltworks Comacchio to ensure total market dominance. The wealth generated from this forced scarcity funded the architectural wonders of the Rialto and allowed the doges to dictate terms to the mightiest monarchs of Europe.
In the Kingdom of France, this monopoly curdled into one of the most hated institutions in European history, the gabelle. Under the Ancien regime, the state forced citizens to purchase a fixed amount of salt at exorbitant rates from royal storehouses known as granular à sel. This tax was so unevenly applied that the price could vary by 20 times between neighboring provinces, creating a lucrative and dangerous underground economy. Desperate peasants turned to smuggling, carrying sacks across river borders under the cover of darkness, risking galley slavery or the gallows for the crime of seasoning their soup.
The brutality of the French salt police serves as a grim reminder of how governments can weaponize basic survival needs. It forces us to consider where the line is drawn between taxation and tyranny. If you were a peasant in 17th century Burgundy, knowing that the penalty was death, would you have dared to become a smuggler to feed your family? I am curious to hear your verdict on this moral dilemma in the comments below. Across the Atlantic, the preservation properties of salt were fueling the dark machinery of the colonial era. The seemingly endless supply of cod found off the Grand Banks of Newfoundland was useless without the solar salt of the Caribbean to cure it. Ships laden with salt from the Turks and Caicos Islands sailed north to cure the fish, which was then shipped back south to feed the enslaved populations working the sugar plantations of the West Indies. This triangular trade created a global feedback loop where salt was the essential chemical agent maintaining the caloric energy of the Atlantic slave economy.
The strategic necessity of the mineral became painfully apparent during the American Civil War, when the Union blockade strangled the Confederacy supply lines. As the price of a single sack rose to thousands of dollars in Confederate currency, Southern civilians resorted to scraping the dirt from smokehouse floors to recover saline residue. Recognizing this vulnerability, Union General Stephen Burbridge launched a targeted raid against the vital salt works of Saltville, Virginia. The destruction of these kettles and furnaces was a tactical blow as devastating as any battlefield defeat, accelerating the collapse of the rebellion by starving its armies.
Yet the most profound chapter in this saga occurred when salt ceased to be a tool of oppression and became a symbol of liberation. Under the British Raj, the India Salt Act of 1882 made it illegal for Indians to collect the mineral from their own shores, forcing them to buy heavily taxed British imports. In 1930, a 78-strong column led by Mahatma Gandhi began the long march to the coastal village of Dandi. When he stooped to grasp a handful of saline mud from the beach, he shattered the illusion of British authority. This simple chemical compound had evolved from a currency of slavery into the catalyst for the downfall of an empire.
The 20th century stripped the mineral of its aristocratic prestige through the brute force of industrial chemistry. The widespread adoption of the Solvay process transformed sodium chloride from a treasured commodity into an omnipresent industrial feedstock, crashing the price and effectively engineering scarcity out of existence. No longer the cause of wars or the ransom of kings, it now sits forgotten in the back of kitchen pantries, recognizable only by the girl with the umbrella on the dark blue canister of Morton salt. We even mastered its biological deficiencies, adding iodine to the mix in the 1920s to banish the specter of goiter, turning a once lethal nutritional gap into a mundane afterthought.
Yet, this newfound abundance masks a critical dependence that remains unbroken. The vast majority of global production never touches a dinner plate. Instead, it feeds the insatiable maw of the chlor-alkali industry. It is the invisible backbone of the modern sphere, essential for the electrolysis that yields chlorine for PVC pipes and caustic soda for paper manufacturing. Every winter, fleets of trucks scatter millions of tons across asphalt arteries to battle the frost, a ritualistic sacrifice of the mineral to the god of logistical efficiency. We may have forgotten its monetary value, but our technological infrastructure would grind to a rapid halt without the constant injection of this white crystal.
Ultimately, our obsession with this rock is not merely economic, but biological. We are terrestrial creatures carrying a remnant of the primordial ocean within our veins. The concentration of salt in our blood plasma mimics the ancient seas from which our ancestors crawled, a chemical memory encoded in our physiology. When we crave the savory bite of a cured ham or the brine of an olive, we are answering a cellular mandate as old as life itself. It serves as the bridge between the inorganic earth and the pulsing rhythm of the human heart, a permanent reminder that we are not separate from the geology we inhabit.
From the sun-baked pans of the Donakill Depression to the high-tech refineries of the modern era, the Ark of Salt is the story of civilization itself. It built empires in Rome, funded the artistic renaissance of Venice, sparked revolution in India, and now quietly sustains the industrial machinery of the 21st century. We have moved from worshiping it as a divine gift to scattering it on our driveways, yet its fundamental power remains undiminished. It is a substance that has preserved our food, our economies, and our very lives.
As you sit down to your next meal and reach for the shaker, take a moment to consider the weight of history resting in your palm. Is there another modern commodity that you believe holds such a hidden, violent lineage? Perhaps the bitter history of sugar or the colonial roots of coffee? Share your candidates for our next investigation in the comments below. Until we meet again, keep looking for the stories hidden in plain sight.